The hidden power of Eleguá, secrets, protection, and spiritual change. You didn't choose the crossroads. You were summoned to them. There comes a moment, subtle but unmistakable, when your life begins to shift in ways logic can't explain. A conversation echoes with strange meaning. A door slams shut just before you were about to step through. A whisper of intuition grows louder in the silence. And suddenly, without warning, your spirit stands between what was and what could be. In that threshold space, where decisions carry the weight of destiny, one force is always present, whether you see him or not. Eleguá. Some call him the trickster, others the gatekeeper. But the elders know him as the opener of all paths, the first voice to hear, the last to leave. In the sacred traditions of Santeria, Ifa, and the broader Yoruba cosmology, Eleguá is the Orisha who controls the crossroads of your life. Those moments when everything can change, if only you're awake enough to notice. But here's the secret many overlook. You don't summon Eleguá. He summons you, not with fire or thunder, but with patterns, symbols, and interruptions. When your life starts to feel like a puzzle rearranging itself, he's already in motion. And the most dangerous thing you can do at that moment is ignore him. You see, Eleguá is not bound by the rules of comfort or order. He dances between chaos and wisdom. He will block your path with confusion, not to harm you, but to test your readiness for the transformation you claim to want. He may appear as a child laughing in mischief, or as an old man offering riddles that only your spirit can solve. He is joy and consequence, fortune and delay, a whisper in your ear that sounds suspiciously like your own voice, but carries centuries of ancestral guidance. Eleguá is often honored in sacred shrines with the numbers 3 and 21, symbols of his playful but potent energy. His presence is marked by red and black, the colors of power and balance, fire and earth. And in every Santeria ceremony, no matter how great or humble, he must be greeted first. Because without his permission, no other spirit will answer. Without his blessing, no other gate will open. And yet, most people treat him like a footnote, a curiosity, a trickster who belongs in legends, not in their daily reality. They leave offerings, but not attention. They invoke his name, yet ignore the signs he sends. And they wonder why their spiritual path feels blocked. But Eleguá is never absent. He simply waits for you to look in the right direction, to ask the right question, to be still enough to hear the sound of the key turning in the lock, the one inside your soul. This is the journey we begin today. Not a story about myth, but a revelation of motion. Not an academic tale of an Orisha, but an invitation to encounter the force that lives in the liminal, that protects through disruption, that tests you not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because if Eleguá has entered your life, something is about to shift. But before he opens any door, he first tests the ground. What kind of test? What happens when the test begins before you even know you're being watched? The test at the crossroads. There is a silence that arrives before the test, a stillness so deep it hums beneath the skin. It's not peace, it's the pause before the unraveling. And when that silence enters your life, know this: Eleguá has already placed his hand on the path ahead. He does not test through thunder. He tests through timing. A conversation you've been avoiding suddenly becomes unavoidable. A door you were sure would open begins to resist your touch. People once aligned with your journey begin to pull away, or worse, reveal their true faces. It feels like life is turning against you, but in truth, it's not life. It's Eleguá. His tests are never random. They are spiritual diagnostics. Your reactions, whether you cling, avoid, or trust, reveal not to him, but to you, whether you are ready for the door you've been asking to walk through. Eleguá governs the crossroads, not just as a symbol, but as a condition of the soul. The crossroads is not always a place. It is a moment when two versions of you meet, who you've been and who you're meant to become. And right there, in that sacred space, Eleguá places the unseen exam. He watches how you speak when no one is listening, how you act when things don't go your way, whether you lean into your truth or retreat into your image, because the next phase of your life, spiritually, emotionally, even materially, cannot be built on what was. It must emerge from what is becoming. And Eleguá, with his ancient, mischievous gaze, ensures you don't take dead weight across the threshold. The Yoruba call this the Oju Oja, the face of the marketplace, where destiny is bartered, bought, and exchanged. But no transaction happens without Eleguá. He is the gatekeeper of all negotiations between spirit and matter. If your heart is not aligned with your intention, if your prayer is louder than your action, if your ego disguises itself as spiritual hunger, he will know, and he will block the exchange. But his blockage is not punishment. It is medicine. Bitter, yes, but sacred. Imagine this. You pray for clarity, but hold on to confusion because it's familiar. You ask for transformation, but cling to your pain because it defines you. You seek a new path, but resist letting go of the footprints you left behind. Eleguá sees this contradiction, and so he sends the test, not to fail you, but to mirror you. He may remove your job, not because you are being punished, but because you've outgrown a space that will not allow your spirit to expand. He may close a relationship that was once beautiful but now drains your essence, because you asked to rise, and not everyone can rise with you. He may silence a door that was once wide open, because the lesson there is complete. In his gentler paths, he gives subtle warnings, dreams with symbolism, signs repeating in threes, obstacles that seem minor but persistent. But if ignored, the warnings grow louder. The test becomes undeniable. Eleguá, especially in his caminos as a child, watches how you play the game. He throws a stone and watches whether you trip, avoid, or dance with it, because how you respond to the unexpected reveals your alignment. Here's a mystery most never consider. Eleguá is not just testing your decisions, he's testing your relationship with spirit itself. Do you trust the process only when it goes your way? Do you believe in the divine only when it comforts you? Or can you say, even in the shaking, I am still being led? That is the threshold. That is the real test. And you won't receive a paper to mark your answers. The only sign you passed is the sensation of something unlocking inside of you. Not outside, inside. A deeper calm, a clearer knowing. A whisper that says, yes. Now you're ready. And then, the door that refused to open for weeks, months, years, swings without resistance. But to reach that moment, you must pass through the crucible of becoming. And in that crucible, everything false will burn. The masks, the narratives, the attachments. That is not the storm. That is the fire before the storm, the refining, because the real confrontation hasn't even begun. What comes next is not Eleguá as the playful guide. It is Eleguá as the one who reveals the difference between protection and punishment, between path and detour, between request and readiness. And it begins with the signs. Do you know how to recognize them? Because they're not always what you think. Signs you're under Eleguá's protection, or his warning. You asked for signs. You lit candles, whispered prayers, stood beneath the moon and asked the universe to show you the way. But when the signs arrived, they didn't come with clarity or comfort. They came like interruptions, like friction, like the universe turning its back, when in truth, it was Eleguá stepping forward. Because protection doesn't always feel like peace. Sometimes it feels like delay, like rejection, like everything you wanted slipping through your fingers just as you reached for it. And that's when you must ask, what if this is not a denial, but a detour placed by divine hands? Eleguá protects not through softness, but through sharpness. He interrupts what would destroy you in disguise. He denies what would poison you slowly. He reroutes you from what seems perfect to save you from what is hollow. But he rarely explains himself in language. His language is pattern, vibration, symbol. The first sign is often repetition. Something small begins to appear again and again. The number 3, his sacred number, may echo through your days. 3 knocks on the door when no one's there. 3 calls that don't go through. 3 chances to choose differently. Or the number 21, a mystery in motion, linked to his caminos. his many manifestations, each with a different energy, a different lesson. These repetitions aren't coincidences. They're invitations. Then come the disruptions. You're headed somewhere and suddenly nothing aligns. Plans cancel. Transportation breaks down. People go silent. The more you push, the more resistance you feel. Most assume this is spiritual warfare. But sometimes it's Eleguá guarding a door that looks good, but holds nothing for your spirit on the other side. This is the test. Can you discern when no is not rejection, but redirection? In many homes where Eleguá is honored, his small clay or stone figure is placed behind the front door. He watches from the shadows, not to spy, but to shield. He listens, not just to what you say, but to the energy beneath your words. And when something approaches your life that carries danger, misalignment, or manipulation, he will intercept it. But here's the mystery. That interception often feels like sabotage. You don't get the job. The person you trusted begins to act distant. You feel isolated, uncertain. You think you're being spiritually blocked. But ask yourself, what would have happened if that thing had worked out? What would you be tethered to now? This is Eleguá's wisdom. To block you not because you're unworthy, but because you're still unaware. Then there are the symbols. The colors red and black, his emblems, may start to surround you. You'll see them on strangers, on clothing, on street signs, a black feather at your doorstep, a red thread tangled in your belongings. These aren't just aesthetics. These are signals, wake-up calls. You might hear laughter where there should be silence, a child's giggle, a mischief in the wind. Sometimes the laughter precedes disruption. It's not mocking. It's a knowing laugh, as if he's saying, "Watch how I rearrange this. You'll thank me later." If you ignore the light signs, they become louder. Suddenly things break. People reveal themselves. Money dries up. You feel like the center has fallen apart. But even here, Eleguá is present, especially here. Because when he moves into warning, it means you've outstayed your season. You've refused the earlier invitations. Now, the shift must come with force. This is where many believe they are cursed. But Eleguá doesn't curse his children. He corrects them. And that correction comes with precision. He won't ruin what you love unless that love is secretly draining you. He won't take what belongs to you, only what you're clinging to that no longer belongs. Ask yourself, has something fallen apart recently, even though you fought to keep it together? Have you been forced into stillness when you were rushing toward something? Have you received a blessing, only for it to turn bitter the moment you grasped it? These are not punishments, they are revelations. Eleguá is showing you that timing is sacred, that your energy must be clean before entering certain spaces, that sometimes your desire is right, but your posture is wrong. Because he will not open a door for someone pretending to be ready, only for someone willing to become ready. He is the guardian of beginnings, and beginnings demand honesty. When you align with him, not just through offerings, but through awareness, his protection becomes unmistakable. He'll make the impossible open like silk. He'll clear paths with elegance and speed. He'll align the right people, the right moment, the right opportunity, because now you're in rhythm. But alignment is an act of daily remembrance, not a one-time ritual, so pay attention to the patterns. Pause when the flow turns into force. Pray not for what you want, but for clarity about what you need to release. Because when you stop resisting his protection, you begin activating his power. And yet, awareness alone isn't enough. There's a moment, deeper than thought, quieter than instinct, when you must step beyond signs, beyond symbols, into ritual action. A shift that isn't outward performance, but inner submission. A personal ritual, a sacred act. And most people never discover it, but you will. The ritual of transformation, beyond the altar. There is a moment when knowing is no longer enough. You've seen the signs. You've watched the patterns. You felt the doors swing open and shut with uncanny precision. But the time has come to move beyond observation, into offering, into embodiment, into transformation. And that threshold is ritual. But don't be mistaken. Ritual is not what you've been taught. It is not merely the lighting of a candle or the placing of an offering. It is not repetition. It is not performance. True ritual is the moment when your soul decides to align with what your spirit already knows. It's the breath before surrender. Eleguá doesn't seek extravagance. He seeks honesty. In Santeria, Eleguá is the first to be greeted in every ceremony, not because of hierarchy, but because without him, no other spirit can arrive. He is the opener, the translator between the divine and the earthly, the one who decides whether your message gets through. If you bypass him, the other doors remain silent. The sky closes. The altar goes cold. But here's what many miss. This isn't just about physical ceremonies. It's about energetic order. If you haven't faced your crossroads, if you haven't submitted your illusions, your ego, your attachments, then any invocation, any prayer, is distorted before it leaves your lips. Eleguá reads energy, not words. So the real ritual begins the moment you stop asking for things and start asking to see yourself clearly. When your request isn't for fortune or healing or opportunity, but for alignment, for truth, no matter how inconvenient, for exposure of what you've buried inside you. And when you ask that way, everything shifts. You may be called to set up a space for him, a small clay figure by your door, a dish with candies, toasted corn, smoked cigars. But understand this: if you do it without reverence, without awareness, he won't respond. He doesn't eat sugar. He consumes sincerity. Some traditions say Eleguá eats with children. Others say he sits on the floor, waiting to see if you'll humble yourself enough to sit with him. Will you speak plainly? Will you remove the mask? Will you confess that you are afraid of the very change you claim to seek? That moment, that naked, trembling honesty, is the beginning of ritual. And then, he listens. You might hear a whisper in your own voice that doesn't feel like yours. You might feel a heat behind your neck, a pull to move, to clean, to write, to weep. These are not strange. They are signs of response. Because once Eleguá acknowledges your sincerity, he moves fast. He begins to rearrange your external world with the same precision he rearranges your inner one. The phone call you needed comes. The situation you feared dissolves. The opportunity you didn't even know to ask for presents itself. But there is a price. The price is your false self, because you cannot receive with clenched fists. You cannot walk through the open path while dragging dead versions of yourself behind you. The ritual requires not just offering, but release. Release the belief that suffering earns you favor. Release the story that says you are unworthy of divine attention. Release the idea that change must come through struggle. Eleguá doesn't demand pain, he demands presence. So here is the true ritual. Wake up every day and ask, where am I being guided if I would only stop resisting? Walk to your door, open it, not just physically, but spiritually, and ask aloud, Eleguá, what are you closing that I refuse to let go of? What are you offering that I've been too blind to accept? And then, listen. The answer might come in memory, in music, in disruption, in sudden clarity. Do not expect thunder, expect alignment. Because when you move with him, the world begins to speak your name differently. People start treating you like someone who cannot be lied to. Opportunities treat you like someone who was expected. Time moves around you, not against you. But that movement comes at the cost of staying the same. Many approach the shrine with hands full. Eleguá prefers the ones who come empty, because then he can fill them. But even when you align, even when you surrender, even when you move with absolute clarity, you are not exempt from the next initiation. Because now that you've opened the door, he steps through, not as the guide, as the storm, when the gatekeeper becomes the storm. You thought it would get easier now. You honored the signs. You made the offering. You surrendered your attachments and spoke the truth your soul had been hiding. You felt the rhythm of Eleguá align with your heartbeat. And in that sacred moment, you believed the path would now smooth itself before you. But what you didn't see coming was that the same force who opened your way would now rise as a storm. Eleguá is the gatekeeper. Yes, the opener of roads, the bearer of keys. But what most do not understand, what many never prepare for, is that once the door opens, he does not simply watch from a distance. He steps inside, not to lead you with comfort, but to strip you of everything false that still clings to your being. And he does this not with cruelty, but with clarity. You asked for transformation. Did you think it would arrive without turbulence? The transformation must shake the bones. He tests the edges of your new self. He walks the corridors of your mind and spirit, kicking down the hidden doors you thought you could keep locked. And he does it not with rage, but with purpose. This is where the storm begins. You may feel a deep, personal unraveling, a strange silence from those who once supported you, a collapse of systems you depended on. People you trusted begin to show their shadows. Paths that looked secure turn to dust. Do not be deceived. This is not abandonment. It is refinement. Because Eleguá knows, anything built from your former self cannot house the new you. So he shakes the foundation. And if the structure crumbles, then it was never strong enough to hold your destiny anyway. Some call this chaos. The wise call it purification. There's an old saying passed through the elders: Eleguá throws the stone and hides the hand, only to show you where you bleed. He doesn't wound to harm, he wounds to reveal. The pain you feel now is not punishment, it is preparation for power. You wanted clarity? Then confusion must burn away. You wanted strength? Then weakness must first surface and be confronted. You wanted alignment? Then everything out of alignment must fall. And that often includes people, beliefs, and identities you once cherished. Do you still want the path? Because Eleguá's storm does not ask that question politely. It demands it. This is the most sacred moment in the journey, the moment where many turn back, where they curse the spirits, blame the ancestors, regret the rituals, not realizing they are closer than ever to their breakthrough. But Eleguá doesn't walk with those who cling to comfort. He walks with the ones who feel the rain on their skin and say, "Let it wash away what no longer serves." Because he is not just the wind that destroys, he is the current that carries you. In Yoruba myth, there are stories where Eleguá closes all roads to the other Orishas, just to teach them that even divine power must flow through him. In life, he does the same. He closes the road not to punish you, but to force you to pause, reflect, and reroute. Sometimes he becomes the storm to make you stop idolizing the map and start listening to the compass within. You will feel the pull to escape, to run back to what was, to call the old lovers, the old patterns, the old life that once gave you safety. But know this: Eleguá has already locked those doors, not out of vengeance, out of love. Because the most dangerous path of all is the one that looks familiar but leads to your spiritual death. You must endure this storm with eyes wide open. You must hold steady when the winds strip away your disguises. You must trust that the thunder is not there to scare you, but to speak. And when the storm passes, when you open your eyes to the debris and silence, you will find something waiting. Not perfection, not ease, but something real. The version of you that is finally unshackled. A clarity that cannot be bought. A peace that was earned. And in that clearing, in the rawness of who you've become, you will see something strange and quiet. A new door. One you've never seen before. One that did not exist until now. Eleguá does not just open the doors you ask for. He opens the ones your soul never knew how to request. The question now is, will you step through? Because the next phase of this journey is not about signs, tests, or storms. It's about claiming what has always been yours. And that final truth awaits. The door, the key, and the invitation. You made it. Through the signs, the tests, the ritual, the storm. And now, everything is quieter. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You've passed through fire without collapsing. You've surrendered without losing your voice. You've stood at the threshold and realized you are the door. Eleguá never wanted your perfection. He wanted your participation, your truth, your willingness to be remade. And here, in the afterglow of the storm, a new reality begins. But don't mistake the stillness for an ending. This is only the beginning of your authority. Now that you've walked the path with him, not as an outsider, but as a spirit awake, you begin to see the keys he left behind, not physical ones. Spiritual, the ability to trust interruption as instruction, the ability to read patterns as prophecy, the ability to say no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's sacred. Because Eleguá's greatest gift is not access, it's awareness. He doesn't just give you doors, he gives you the eyes to recognize which ones are real, and the courage to walk through them alone, if necessary. Now you must ask yourself, honestly and without fear, what door in your life is still waiting for you to walk through it? You felt the pull, the nudge, the repeated invitation. Maybe you thought you weren't ready. Maybe the past haunted you. Maybe fear disguised itself as logic. But now, the excuses fall away, because Eleguá has cleared what needed to be cleared. Now the silence is an invitation. This is your chance to move not from confusion, but from alignment. To no longer beg for signs, but to be the sign, to others, to your lineage, to your ancestors watching and waiting for someone to break the cycle. Because when you walk with Eleguá, you don't walk alone. The path you open becomes a path for others. The courage you display becomes healing for generations. The choices you make in the dark become light for those still afraid to step forward. So don't hold your story. Speak it. Let the world know what Eleguá opened in your life. Let others hear the before and after, the signs, the shaking, the peace that followed. Your voice may be the sound someone else has been waiting for in their own storm. Tell your story below, in the comments, in the silence, in your rituals. And if this journey spoke to your soul, if it opened something or reminded you of who you've always been beneath the forgetting, subscribe. This is not entertainment. This is invocation. In the next video, we'll walk deeper. We'll explore the spirits who walk beside Eleguá, the Orishas, whose powers counterbalance his. We'll open the mystery of Ogun, Oya, and Exu, and how their forces shape your spiritual landscape. Until then, remember, the door is open, the key was never lost, and Eleguá is always watching.